Welcome into a brand new edition of WarUp on the WPIAL. Greg Warnock, Jeff Upson with you here. It's not Worn Up. That was a 1 week special, but Jeff is back in his seat. Does it feel to be good to be at least talking wrestling?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to talk wrestling. It's just been a wild ride for me the last 10 days it's been. But it was weird not being at wrestling this weekend. I can tell you that much. It was really strange not being at wrestling, but it is what it is. I got a beautiful baby boy son, so I'm not. It's not like I'm being torn away for bad reasons. It's a good reason, but it's still
Yeah,
tough not to be there.
that's a great reason. So, but you missed some good wrestling for sure, Jeff. I'm sure you got the chance. The great thing about this COVID season, I guess you could say, on is the fact that if you are unable to go to tournaments, you can see pretty much everything with the streaming that's going on right now.
Yeah, and we talked about it off air. I probably saw more wrestling, like actual, not being there, but I saw more wrestling just as a whole because I got to watch the different super regions on flow. I got to switch between mats and matches, so I was able. And look, no one was interrupting me, but my 10-day-old son. A diaper change is different than someone talking to you for a half hour. So it had its advantages for sure.
Well, some good wrestling taking place. We're going to start in AAA, where the WPIAL definitely shined. 29 total wrestlers will be coming home with a medal, advancing on to Hershey for next week. 29 out of a possible 39, and that's. We've had some really great years, pretty recent for the WPIL, but this is another one. Definitely a strong performance. And when you look at 106 pounds, Tyler Chappell just continuing to be rock solid, gets the title in all close bouts. He put together a total of 7 points in his 3 matches, but that's enough. Kind of like his brother Dylan, right? He's super tough to score on, is Tyler, and he does it to get the championship.
Yeah, and actually he did it against two District 3 wrestlers in Caden Williams and Dom Flats. So, he had some, and Rocco Fratello as well. So he actually had three District 3 wrestlers that he beat en route to that Super Region Championship. But you're right, Tyler's very similar to Dylan in the sense that he's hard to score and he's a good scrambler. He's able to close out matches. We've seen him be in a lot of close matches, but he's always kind of in control of those matches. So I was not surprised. I thought that match with Caden Williams was that's probably like a final match because Williams has 4 wins over Flat this year. So Williams was probably the guy looking at number 2 in the bracket, but Tyler was able to find a way to win that one. So yeah, he's wrestling at the right level at the right time headed into Hershey.
Andrew Benny finished in 5th place. They did wrestle the top 6, and I understand why, I guess, if a wrestler can't go. But I got to be honest with you, Jeff. If I finish in the top 4, if I'm injured, I'm still going to Hershey. All I got to do is make weight, and I'm getting a state medal. And it is so hard to get in the top 8 in Pennsylvania that I don't think I would miss my chance to get a medal.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you in the sense that I'm going regardless, but I do like the fact that they wrestled down to the 6th place. I like the idea of having those 5th, 6th place finishers in the WPIAL. To be honest, I can't believe that they, in normal years when they're sending 4 wrestlers to the state tournament, that they don't do a 5th and 6th. Every other district or region does that. I don't understand why the WPIAL doesn't. It's nice to have. And you had mentioned Benny. He actually was able to beat Nino Walker in the consolation round, and then he dropped a tough 2-1 decision to Caden Williams. So, I thought Benny wrestled well. He came back to take 5th. Overall, I thought the WPIAL was well represented here.
You look at this coming weekend and Hershey, and basically all they do is they put the East champion on one side, the West champion on the other side, and then it's a formula from there. So essentially, the 1st and 3rd place finishers out of the West are on one side of the bracket, and the 2nd and the 4th place finishers out of the West are on the other side of the bracket. So what that means for Tyler Chappell is he's got Caden Williams on his half of the bracket again in Hershey.
Yeah, and I would say he's on probably the tougher side of the bracket just because you have a guy from Stroudsburg, Josh Janowitsits from Stroudsburg District 11 area. He was a state qualifier previously, kind of had a not so good super region tournament, Luke Serini from Abington Heights is a super tough sophomore. And of course, Caden Williams. So I expect Caden Williams to come out and wrestle Tyler Chappell, and I believe Carson Wagner from Northampton will come out on the top half. So I think we could have a good finals match here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chappell has every opportunity here to be a state champion, in my opinion, here at 106 pounds. 113 pounds, Vinny Kilkeary of Latrobe gets upset in the finals. He drops a 9-7 decision to Camden Williams of Manheim Township. Also here for the WPIAL, Troy Homan of Penn Trafford. He finishes in the top 4. He gets a 4th place finish. A big win over Joseph Simone as well as Nick Allison in the consolations to get to that 4th place finish. Aiden Lewis of Cedar Cliff, a state runner-up last year, does not make it to Hershey.
Not only does he not make it to Hershey, he finishes in 6th place in the Super Region. The story here, and probably the story of the Super Region, was Camden Williams. Really tough freshman. We've seen him throughout the year keep on making jumps. He beat Aiden Lewis last week in the South Central Regional. I was not surprised whatsoever to see him beat Kilkeary. It's a bad matchup there. Kilkeary, the way Camden Williams was able to wrestle, he kind of wrestled his style the whole time, and he's going to come after you in specific ways. And if you're not, if you don't scout him, if you're not prepared for that, it could be tough. And I think that's what's happening with these guys that are wrestling Camden Williams. They think they're going to be traditional, and he's like not so fast. He just kind of does things untraditional and non-traditional. If you go back and watch the match with Jacob Van D, that was, I think, really telling of where he was at. I thought after he beat Van D 7-3, I was definitely picking him to win in the finals, and that's saying a lot considering how good Vinny Kilkeary has been this year. I just thought Camden Williams he had the hot hand, especially on Saturday.
And when you look at the state bracket, Van D and Williams are on that same side. Kilkeary on the top half. Do you like a rematch of? I guess first, do you like a rematch of Williams Van D and then potentially Williams Kilkeary?
Yeah, I mean, 113 is an interesting one because there's a lot of tough guys here. There's not a lot of guys here who are going to be pushovers, right? You have a freshman, Mason Ziegler from Quakertown, who's good but hasn't really been tested a whole lot. Troy Homan, Jack Russo from Delaware Valley is a guy I'm super high on. He won a very tough East Region, Super Region, beating Cale McIntyre and also Charlie Bunting from Nazareth. So I do expect a Van D and Williams rematch in the semifinals, and I expect Jack Russo and Homan to be a really good match. Jack Russo is just, man, he's tough. But the way Homan wrestled this past weekend, I would not be surprised to see an all WPIAL semifinal between Kilkeary and Homan. If I'm Kilkeary, I'm feeling pretty good about where I'm at, though.
120 pounds. The WPIAL had Mac Church of Waynesburg win the title. The big upset, I think, came in the opening round. Chad Ozias of Connellsville, a 5-2 win over Lane Akey of Bellefonte. Church ends up beating Ozias, and then he beats Schindeldecker in the finals. Dylan Coy, who was the WPIAL champion, lost to Schindeldecker and dropped some of the consolations, where he then lost to Mason Leapart of Dover, who Mac Church had beat in the quarterfinals. So Dylan Coy does not advance. Chad Ozias of Connellsville, meanwhile, able to grab the 4th place finish in this weight class. So Church and Ozias won 4, and Coy finishes 5th.
Yeah, this was a weird one because, Dylan Coy definitely underperformed. He came in with a 25-1 record. His only loss on the season was the Mac Church, who he had beat the week prior. Schindeldecker, he's a tough, savvy junior. He was 3rd place in the state as a freshman. He's a guy who I think was a bad matchup for Coy, but then Mason Leapart was even worse matchup for Dylan Coy down on the bottom half. I wasn't surprised to see Chad Ozias beat Lane Akey. Lane Akey was coming back from an injury. He only had a handful of matches under his belt for the season. He was a returning state medalist, but I just thought Chad Ozias could definitely beat him. And then actually he loses to Leapart, who beats Coy after that. I think, if you're Mac Church, okay, you didn't get a rematch with Dylan Coy, but you did everything right. You beat Leapart 6-1. You beat Chad Ozias 5-1, and then you beat Schindeldecker in a tough match 4-3. I would have liked to see him open up more in the finals. I thought he looked good his first 2 matches. In the finals, I thought he kind of took his foot off the gas a little bit. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I just feel like he probably could have opened up a little bit more against Schindeldecker, and that's credit to Schindeldecker and how good he was throughout the weekend.
I think that's one thing about Mac Church, such a fantastic wrestler, but sometimes in those big matches, he doesn't get to his offense quick enough and he tightens up a little bit. And I've just noticed it throughout from last year, even into this year. But, yeah, to me, like when I see him wrestle like we did in True Power, for instance, against Tyler Kasak,
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness. I mean, Mac Church is amazing, and we know he has the talent. We just got to see him open up in those big matches, where he knows nothing's, he could just let it ride and focus on his talents, and I think he definitely come out on top and be a potential state champion. And when you look at this coming weekend, I think the biggest name for Mac Church to potentially get by is Dante Frenzy of Bethlehem Catholic.
Well, and WPIAL fans should know Dante Frenzy. He's the guy who defeated Carter Dybert last year in the state tournament to knock him out of finishing as a state champion a second year in a row. Mac Church is on an interesting side because he has Keanu Manuel from Downtown East, who's a senior. If you remember him, he lost to Vinny Kilkiri in the state tournament last year in a very tight match. I believe it was either first round or quarterfinals that he wrestled Kilkiri. He's no slouch. He's injury defaulted to the fourth place finish. That's going to not be a pushover match there for him. And I think he probably sees Mason Leapart again from Dover. Austin Fashauer from West Scranton is a senior. I think he's going to, I think he's going to have a good tournament, but I also believe that Leapart is he's such a hard matchup for some of those guys. And on the top half, honestly, I like Dante Frenzy, but Schindeldecker, if he wrestled like he did in this past weekend, the Super Region, I could see it being a West Super Region rematch between Church and Schindeldecker, just the way Schindeldecker was able to really slow Church down. Frenzy's kind of in that same boat of like, hey, if I slow down a match and I just squeak out a win, he tends to take his foot off the gas a little bit. So Chad Ozias, I would not be shocked if Chad Ozias ends up beating Frenzy either. There's a lot of parity here. I don't think there's a true, one that just stands out head and shoulders above. I think Church is that guy when he wants to be, but after losing to Coy, I think, kind of set back a little bit.
126 pounds. The one other big surprise, I guess, is Ethan Bergen of Hempfield dropping a 11-6 decision to freshman Luke Simcox, who had a great tournament. He got to the finals, but Carter Dybert of Franklin Regional able to win the title, a 4-2 win. Ethan Bergen comes back for third place, pinning Matt Repos, a Central Dolphin, in the third and fourth place match. But Dybert finishing 1, Bergen 3.
And if you go back and watch the Dybert and Simcox match, Simcox was very close to a reversal to tie that match and take it to overtime. Simcox wrestled a heck of a weekend, man. I was very impressed with him. I saw him at Powerade and I thought, okay, yeah, he's good, but he kicked it into a different gear here at the Super Region. He won the Northwest Region, comes out with a state champion right off the bat, and just he really looked like a savvy veteran. He wasn't wrestling like a freshman. After that, he beats Repos from Central Dolphin, who we know last year is who defeated Mac Church to send him into the consolation round. Beats him 5-3 pretty convincingly, and then really hangs with Carter Dybert. I was very impressed with Luke Simcox. Dybert, I thought, looked very good in the first two opening matches against Steven Spitko and Alicia from Manheim Township. He outscores them 21-1. And then, Simcox, I give all the credit to him because, man, he looked really good throughout the weekend.
He's going to be on the top half of the bracket with Tyler Kasak of Bethlehem Catholic and Matt Repos as well. Bottom half, you got the two WPIAL guys on the same half, Ethan Bergen and Carter Dybert.
Yeah, and, unfortunately, I think that's probably what we're going to see in the semifinals is another Ethan Bergnick and Carter Dybert match. I do totally expect them to meet in the semifinals. Not taking anything away from Shippey and Fendora, but, these guys are just on different levels, I believe. And then on the top half, I believe we're going to see Simcox and Kasak in the top half for the semifinals at 126. And honestly, I think if Kasak can get out a win there, I think he's going to push whoever comes out in the bottom big time. I think you throw Dybert and Kasak into a bag and toss them around. I think it probably goes maybe 6-4 in favor of Dybert, but Kasak's he's very, very tough. We've seen that last year, so it's just a matter of who shows up, right?
132 pounds, Dylan Chappell of Seneca Valley winning the title, a 6-5 win over Briar Priest of Hempfield. And Priest had another opportunity to wrestle Colton Stone King of Waynesburg. Stone King finishes in 4th place. He beat Jude Swisher of Bellefonte 9-7 in the quarters. Priest beats Stone King 3-0 in the semis. And then Stone King comes back for 4th place, where Swisher avenges that loss, an 8-5 win. So WPIAL getting all 3 across here at 132.
Yeah, and a lot of credit goes to Dylan Chappell here, but I'm super impressed with Briar Priest and how well he's been wrestling this year, especially. Being a junior last year, not making it out of the regional tournament despite beating Vinny Kilcarry. He's down at 106. Not many people can go up how many weight classes, and actually compete at a very high level. It's difficult to do. Briar Priest was able to do that. He gets a fall in the first round over Griffin Gonzalez. Then he beats Stone King 3-0, and Stone King had a great win over Jude Swisher 9-7 before that. So, you're thinking, okay, he has the hot hand right now. And of course, Dylan does what Dylan does best, man. He closes out matches. I thought Dylan's match with Braden Bauer from Williamsport was a key match for him. Bauer's a no slouch whatsoever. He's a junior. They're actually both going to be Bucknell teammates. They're both committed to Bucknell. Dylan a year ahead of him. And then Chappell's able to find a way to win against Priest like he always does. So, yeah, I thought the WPIAL was well represented here, despite the fact that Stone King then dropped the match to Jude Swisher. I thought all 3 of these guys wrestled really, really tough.
And I think Dylan's wrestling very, very well right now. I mean, we talked about him, at times not getting to his offense. I think he knows now he's got to get the points on the board so that way then he doesn't get in those 1-0, 2-1 matches. And I'm just really excited to see how he does this coming weekend. It's a tough weight class here at 132. You talk about those top 4 out of the West, all solid wrestlers, but then you throw in Nate Lucier from Coatesville, Matt Mayer of Bethlehem Catholic. It's going to be a fun one at 132.
Yeah, and you said it with Dylan wrestling's very smart. He's wrestling like a senior who's been there before, right? You're not a 2-time state runner-up, and you don't learn a few things, right? He's been wrestling really smart. That's why he's my pick to win it. However, that bottom half, Matt Mayer, Jude Swisher, great first-round matchup. Matt Mayer had Nathan Lucier dead to rights. He was up big on him. He had a huge cut above his eye, had it wrapped up and taped like 9 times. That definitely screwed with him. He kind of broke a little bit. Lucier, he's a Super 32 medalist, one of the best in the state currently. I'm not sure who's going to come out from that top half. I think Lucier Stone King's a first good opening round match, but heck, Briar Priest, you can't count him out, right? I really don't. I can't say that. I think he beats Kelly Kakos from Perkiomen Valley. I think Jude Swisher, Matt Mayer winner is going to push the heck out of Dylan Chappell, whoever should win that. I don't know. I think there's a lot of unknowns here. If I was a betting man, I would say in the finals would be Chappell and Lucier. But again, crazier things have happened. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think Priest could definitely get in that final mix. I'm just really high on how Chappell's been wrestling right now, and I expect him to have a great tournament here next week as well. 138 pounds. This was a bonkers weight class here in the Super West region. Finn Solomon had himself one heck of a tournament. Had a tight one against Matt Sarbo of Altoona in the opening round, 10-7, but followed that up with a 9-1 major decision win over Dylan Evans and a 12-1 major decision win over Cole Hamid in the finals. WPIAL also getting 3 across here, 1, 2, and 4. Chandler Ho of DuBois, the number 3 wrestler here. Dylan Evans finishing in 4th place. And then you still have Josh Miller of Central Dauphin, Dom Frontino of Shippensburg, 5-6. Matt Sarbo is the 7th best wrestler in this weight class. That's just how deep this weight class was to have Sarbo being the 7th best guy. But WPIAL, another strong showing here at 138.
I mean, you said it. It's bonkers. 138 was absolutely bonkers. I was so psyched to see this bottom half of the bracket shake out. But what I underestimated was the wrestlers in the top half with Chandler Ho and Cole Hamid and how they were going to wrestle. So let's break it down to a simple term. Dylan Evans avenges a loss from the state tournament last year. He beats Josh Miller from Central Dauphin, who he had lost to in Hershey a year prior. He comes out on a 4-2 tiebreaker win. Very good match. Then has a not-so-good performance against Finn Solomon. You said it. Finn Solomon had a heck of a weekend. He picked a good weekend to really turn it up and turn his offense up. After that opening round match with Matt Sarbo, I'm thinking, okay, he's going to have his hands full. And then all of a sudden he started wrestling, like the Finn Solomon we saw maybe his freshman year.
Yep.
Dylan Evans comes back. He beats a tough Frontino from Shippensburg, and he loses to Chandler Ho, who I thought had a great weekend. I really look at this and I say, the Cole Hammett and Finn Solomon match, yes, it was 12-1, but that score is not indicative of where these two are at. I mean, these two are very much closer than that. I just, again, I think it's who shows up on what weekend, because all three of those guys from the WPIAL, they've all beaten each other. They all had wins and losses over each other, and they all advance to the next round, which is what you want to do. So who knows? Next week we could be saying this is Dylan Evans who's winning this. It really wouldn't shock me to see that happen.
Yeah, and I really expect all three of them to have a strong showing in Hershey. Kyle Hosserman of Council Rock North is your top East wrestler, and obviously he is a stud. Andrew Harmon of Bethlehem Catholic also in that mix, but I really like the WPIAL outside of Kyle Hosserman to really show up well here.
Yeah, and this is a very deep weight class, not only in the WPIAL but across the state. Kyle Hosserman and Dylan Evans may be one of my more favorite first round matches. And I say it's first round, it's really the quarterfinals, but I think it's probably one of the better quarterfinal matches of the tournament is Kyle Hosserman and Dylan Evans. Hosserman, we saw him at True Power. He wrestled Jude Swisher, looked really good. He had a great Super 32 a week prior. I expect Hosserman to win, Cole Hammett to win, have a matchup there between Hammett and Hosserman, two guys that we saw in True Power, and then Finn Solomon and Chandler Ho, probably a rematch there. I don't know. Andrew Harmon's tough, but I'm not sure if he has enough for Chandler Ho, especially if Chandler wrestles like he did last weekend. So a lot of depth here across the state, but hey, I wouldn't be surprised if Dylan Evans upsets Kyle Hosserman. I would not be surprised to see that. And then I wouldn't be surprised to see Cole Hammett beat him and end up in the finals and beat Finn Solomon. I mean, honestly, it's just these guys are so close. They're neck and neck. It's hard to say who's going to come out on top.
If Kyle Hosserman is to win a state title, he's going to have to beat all three WPIAL guys, in my opinion. He's going to have to beat Evans, he's going to have to beat Hammond, he's going to have to beat Solomon. And if he does that, that is one heck of a wrestling weekend for Kyle Hosserman.
Yeah.
145 pounds. John Altieri of Norwin is your champion. Wyatt Henson of Waynesburg, number 2. Ty Linzenbigler of Hempfield finishes in 4th place. He dropped a pair of decisions, both to Riley Bauer, 3-2 in the quarters, and then winning a pair of matches before losing to Bauer again, 3-2 for 3rd place. The story here for John Altieri, he wins by disqualification in the first period. Wyatt Henson goes in on a double, picks him up in the air, and unfortunately drops him down on his head. And Altieri had to be taken out by stretcher. I think he's going to be okay, but being precaution for Henson. I mean, he's been driving those deep doubles all season long, and just was unable to return him safely to the mat, and gets DQ'd.
Yeah, it was a weird sequence, and you go back and watch it, and he has been hitting those doubles where he's scooping both legs up off the ground, and it is that wrestler's responsibility to bring that person down to the mat safely. It obviously wasn't malicious. It wasn't flagrant misconduct. It was simply him taking him down hard and landing kind of awkwardly on his head neck area. And John Altieri didn't want to win that way. He certainly did not want to have to not wrestle Wyatt Henson a full 6 minutes. However, that's the way it is, right? And we send our best wishes to John Altieri. I think he's going to be fine to go for Hershey. Like you said, I think most of it was precautionary with the neck area, especially with everything going on with the spinal injury. So I think he's going to be okay, and I honestly think he's going to do just fine in Hershey. I think we could potentially see that match happen again in Hershey, and I also don't think it's going to set back Wyatt Henson. I think he was upset and aggravated by it. But I think he's probably going to move past that and go get another state title.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he draws the top half of the bracket now where he's going to have Sam McMonagle on the top half. John Altieri could potentially see Riley Bauer of Williamsport again in a semifinal for the right to get to the finals.
Yeah, actually, it's funny you say that because I expect it to be Riley Bauer coming out on the semifinals and John Altieri coming out and wrestling that one. And that was, like you said, them wrestling in the super region, that was a tough one. That was a tough tiebreaker match, 2-1. And Altieri was wrestling close kind of the whole weekend. He wrestled Regan Lefevre from Hempfield, beat him 1-0. Then the tiebreaker match with Bauer. I think he's got to open it up a little bit more like he did against Ty Linsenbigler. That McMonagle and Linsenbigler match on the top half is probably second, or maybe even ahead of that Kyle Houseman Dylan Evans match in terms of excitement for me. I really don't know what to expect with that one. I think Linsenbigler wrestled really well at the Southwest region, or I'm sorry, the West Super region. Wyatt Henson, I think he comes out. I think he's going to win another state title, and I think there's a good chance that he could see Altieri again in Hershey.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. 152 pounds, that bottom half of the bracket was absolutely crazy. Paniro Johnson defeats Jared Kessler 9-4. Rocco Welsh wins by major decision over Bryce Buckman. Welsh defeats Paniro Johnson 7-3. And then Alejandro Herrera Rondon and Welsh in the finals once again, but AHR wins by injury default this time around. They do not end up wrestling with one another. That's why I'm sporting the Seneca Valley shirt they gave us, Jeff, because 3 champions for Seneca Valley. That's a heck of a tournament for Seneca Valley to have 3 champs. But on the bottom half of the bracket, Paniro Johnson ends up wrestling Jared Kessler again for 3rd and 4th. This time he wins by fall. So no surprise at all as far as who the top 4 out goes, but it's AHR, Welsh, Johnson, Kessler.
Yeah, and that's how it goes in the state. 1, 2, 3, 4. That they've been ranked that way for basically the whole year, and not a lot's changed this past weekend. So AHR is still kind of on a different level. And although we did not see him and Rocco wrestle, he looked very good throughout the weekend. He just looks like a different type of wrestler, I think, than we've seen in years past. Jared Kessler, obviously you're in a tough section or tough bracket. You lose to Panero Johnson twice, a guy who you beat at True Power, loses to him in the regular season. I think Rocco's match with Panero Johnson was a very critical match for him, because if you go back and watch it, that 7-3, Panero wasn't in that match, and I love Panero Johnson, but he wasn't even the realm of threatening to win that match. Rocco was just wrestling so well. That's why I thought, man, is this Rocco's time to take down AHR before going into the state tournament? Unfortunately, he did not compete. I think it was a decision that was made in the best interest of him, and staying healthy and making sure that his head and his mind and his body are in the right place going into Hershey. So it is what it is. But overall, this is 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the state. That's probably how it's going to end up in Hershey the next week.
Yeah, we're going to see semifinals where Jared Kessler had Rocco Welsh on the ropes just 2 weeks ago, or a little over a week ago in the WPIAL semifinals. Kessler was up. It took Welsh getting the takedown in the final 15 seconds to win that match. That's on the top half of the bracket, and we could see for the first time Johnson and AHR on the bottom half.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to all these matches here. 152 pounds. You look at the state bracket, and again, these 4 obviously stick out. But then you have Evan Gleason from Bethlehem Catholic, who's 13-0, returning state medalist. That's a tough matchup with Jared Kessler. I think those 2 are probably going to be in a tight match. I think Rocco has no problem with Chase Barlow. I think Panero Johnson and Zach Martin will be a good match, but I think it's probably going to be a Panero Johnson AHR semifinal and a Kessler Welsh semifinal. But again, Gleason, maybe that's not giving Gleason enough respect. I think Gleason is a guy who, he's going to battle with the best of them, and he's undefeated in one of the toughest districts in the state. So I would expect him to come out and battle. He had a tough win over Zach Martin from the Chamonix, who is a state medalist. So, but the story here is the WPIAL. There's no doubt about that.
160 pounds, Cole Spencer of Pine Richland, a very solid tournament on his way to a title. Took some late points in order to beat Ethan Richner of Bellefonte, but Spencer is your champion. Chase Kranitz of Norwin also getting out with a 4th place finish.
Yeah, and this was an interesting weight class, because outside of Spencer, you didn't really have guys that you thought, all right, this is a lock to get to the finals, kind of like we talked about 152. Ethan Richner, yes, that's a guy who has been there before. He's undefeated. Sean Smith was kind of he was an unknown for me. I've seen him through Carlisle for the last couple of years, but undefeated, 24-0, and comes out and gets majored by Chase Kranitz. And then Chase Kranitz gets pinned by Ryan Fry from Redline. Now, this is weird because Ryan Fry lost to Strawn Smith in the South Central Regional Finals, comes back and beats him, and then he pins Chase Kranitz in the third place match. So it was kind of a weird it was a weird bracket. But the story for the WPIAL is Cole Spencer continuing to be that steady horse, that consistent wrestler who's just finding ways to continue to win. He gets that fall over Ryan Fry and then has a very convincing win over Rickner. I'm really excited to see Cole Spencer coming into the state tournament because his only loss is to Avery Bassett from Midwest, super tough guy from the AA. I'm excited to see where he ends up in Hershey.
He's on the bottom half of the bracket where he'll potentially see either Ryan Fry or Jack McGill in the semifinals, provided he wins his quarters. Chase Kranitz has a tough draw right away with Jagger Condomity of Northampton, but you got to say that it could be Spencer Condomity for the title.
Yeah, and those two have been 1 and 2 in the state basically all year. Jagger Condomity is he's on a different level. He's going to Nebraska, one of the top guys in the nation. He was a state runner-up last year, so we've seen him, we know him, we know what to expect. But Cole Spencer is, I think he's that quiet guy who could potentially threaten Jagger. Although Jack McGill, again, a guy from Springford, we're going to talk about someone from Springford when we go to 189. But I really like him. He's going to Columbia. Two guys that are Ivy League guys. Cole Spencer going to Penn. So I think we're going to see some fireworks between McGill and Spencer, and I do expect them to wrestle there with a winner to have a chance to wrestle Jagger Condomity for a state title.
172 pounds, another weight class in the West region that was just absolutely nuts with the amount of talent in this weight class. Luca Augustine of Waynesburg finishes in second place. He drops a 5-3 decision to Trey Kibe of Mifflin County in the finals. Sammy Starr had one heck of a tournament from Kiski. He finishes in third place, including taking Trey Kibe to overtime before he gets pinned in the overtime period. But he comes battling back after that loss, beats Tate Nichter, and then beats Lance Urbis by major decision. So a great tournament from Starr. Even Brian Finnerty of Thomas Jefferson finishing in sixth place. And what I think 1 through 8 is just absolutely solid at this weight class. But Augustine and Starr moving on.
Yeah, and I hate to overlook Luca Augustine here, but I was so impressed with Sammy Starr. After he beat Tucker Hogan from Daniel Boone, who's a very, very good freshman, he beat him up 12-1. I'm thinking, man, he's gonna beat Trey Kibe. Like Trey Kibe is he's tough and he's tech followed Brian Finnerty, but Sammy was wrestling so well. And then they go to overtime. I'm thinking, yep, this is it. Like this is Sammy Starr's marquee win. And he gets pinned defensively. He's in a weird position, and Trey Kibe's able to get a fall. But he pushed him. He pushed him hard. And then, of course, Luke Augustine makes it to the finals. He looked really good against two tough guys, and Tommy Dressler and Lance Urbis. I thought Urbis was going to be a tough match for him. He beat him up 13-0. And then Sammy Starr does the same thing to Lance Urbis. He beats him up 12-2. I thought Finnerty had a really good win over Tucker Hogan 3-2 and then battled Urbis. But the story here is, we saw how close Starr and Augustine were. I think this weekend just solidified how close they are, really. I could see this being 1, 2, 3 in the state all day, in Hershey next week.
Yeah, we could see that. I really like the opportunity for Starr and Kibe to wrestle once again in the semifinals on the bottom half of the bracket. Augustine, meanwhile, he'll have Sonny Sasso and then potentially Dominic Falcone of Easton. But you gotta like you said, the 1, 2, 3 here at 172.
Yeah, actually, there's really little doubt in my mind that we're going to see a Sammy Starr Trey Kibe rematch. I just can't see Louthney from LaSalle, who's a senior, transferred in from District 12. I can't see him hanging with Starr, and I don't see Romanelli from Downingtown East hanging with Kibe. So I expect those two to meet in the semifinals again, and probably what will be a good barn burner match. I think Augustine's able to get past Sonny Sasso. I think probably the tougher matchup is going to be him and Falcone, should Falcone get past Urbis. But I really do expect probably a 1, 2, 3 again, like we just saw in the West Super Region on Saturday.
189 pounds for the WPIAL. It was Justin Hart of Hampton, the lone qualifier, as he finishes in third place. Braden Roskowski finishing in fifth place in this weight class. Carson Manville gets disqualified in the semifinals. He was the top wrestler potentially coming into this weight class. But Hart battled tough, but just finishes just shy, losing 4-3 to eventual champion Ethan Rossman.
Yeah, and again, another weight class that was just very strange because, Rossman, he had lost to Manville 2 weeks in a row in District 6 finals and also the Northwest Regional final. So you kind of expect, all right, well, if they're going to meet again, like he's probably going to lose to him for a third time. He ends up getting a nice win over Colt Barley 8-1. And then Justin Hart had a tough match with Isaiah Allman from Cedar Cliff in that first match, 3-1 in sudden victory. Rossman's able to come out with a 4-3 win against him. I thought Hart wrestled really well because he beat Roskowski again. He beat him in the wrestlebacks. Roskowski beat Baxter. Hart beats Roskowski. Barley wins by forfeit over Manville, who got disqualified. And then Hart pins Barley, who's a South Central Regional champion. So, yeah, this was a weird weight class, and I expect to get even weirder when we go to the state tournament in Hershey, too.
Justin Hart on the bottom half of the bracket. He's going to have Isaiah Reinert of Easton as his first matchup.
Yeah, so when I talked about it getting weird, we got some strange matchups here because you got Joey Milano in the top half from Springford, number one in the state. Hasn't been number one for long. Drew Cleary was the number one guy for most of the year. He loses to Joey Milano in the semifinal match after losing to Reinhardt in the Northeast Regional tournament. This one, I believe Milano and Cleary are going to have a rematch in the semifinals, and I think it's probably going to be Reinhardt and Rossman on the bottom half. But again, Hart, like if he shows up and wrestles, Hart's going to get to the semifinals. It's just a matter of, like, we saw him in the consolation round open up. When he slows down and shuts down, like that's when he loses the guys he shouldn't lose to. So if he can just keep on wrestling and keep finding ways to score, I think he has a really legit shot to make it to the semifinals and potentially the finals.
Yeah, he's another one of those guys likes to keep a lot of matches close, but at the same time, he's when he opens up, I mean, he's just so dangerous. So hopefully, with it being his senior year and last opportunity, he does that and opens up a bit here in Hershey, knowing he's got a medal secured. And that's another interesting thing. I think this tournament's going to be a little bit different than most years because all the guys have a medal secured. So I'm wondering if we'll see some guys kind of open up a little bit, especially once if they lose that first match, how they may just start flying from there. 215 pounds, WPIAL gets a third and a fourth place finish. Logan Harmon of Armstrong in third. Cole Waitman of Bell Vernon in fourth place. Waitman losing 3-0 to eventual champion Josh Harkless. Harmon losing 7-2 to Jake Lucas in the semifinals. Harmon and Waitman did not wrestle. Waitman ends up injury defaulting out. And Ty Banco of Trinity also finishing in fifth place. He had a pretty good tournament as well. But 3 and 4 here at 215.
Yeah, and I hope Cole Waitman's good to go for Hershey because this would be his second state medal. And if you remember last year, the state tournament, he injury defaulted to sixth after making it to the semifinals and losing to Dorian Crosby of Cathedral Prep. Harkless had a great weekend. He beats undefeated John Campbell and then beats Waitman 3-0 and then avenges a loss from a week prior to Jake Lucas. So there's no shame in losing to that. And then he pins Ty Banco. Cole Waitman does. He pins Ty Banco in under a minute. I'm curious to know if Waitman's okay and he's good to go because if he is, he's going to be a threat. It's just a matter, is he healthy and is he ready to go for Hershey?
With that fourth place finish, he does draw Ryan Kaka of Sun Valley in the opening round, and then he'll likely have Jake Lucas in the semis. Logan Harmon, meanwhile, drawing Jason Henderson of Delaware Valley.
Yeah, so if you look on paper, Katka and Waitman were number 1 and number 2 in the state, again, basically all year. So you have a 1 and a 2 in the first round or at the quarterfinal round of the state tournament. That's kind of why I was thinking, like, okay, like if you can wrestle that match against Harmon, why not wrestle it? Because now you're opening yourself up to a huge match with Ryan Kaka, who's going to Navy. He's an absolute stud, and also being on the same side as Jake Lucas. So Harmon's going to have his hands full with Jason Henderson from Delaware Valley, returning state medalist. He's going to Old Dominion for football. I think he's going to have his hands full there. But, yeah, the question for me is Waitman if he's healthy, because he could come out and beat Ryan Kaka and kind of, cruise into it. I don't know. I just need to know how healthy he is.
285 pounds for the WPIAL Isaiah Vance. Hempfield, 2 dominant showings, 2 quick falls to get to the finals and set up the match with Nate Schoen of Selinsgrove. Schoen did beat William McChesney of Greensburg-Salem by fall to get there, and also major decision Dawson Dietz of Hampton. So Schoen had to wrestle all 3 WPIAL guys to get there, and then Vance just wrestled outstanding. A 7-2 win for Isaiah Vance over Nate Schoen. And then the WPIAL comes back 3-4. Dawson Dietz of Hampton, William finishes in 3rd place. He beats William McChesney 3-1, and McChesney finishing in 4th.
Yeah, again, a weight class with a lot of star power here. You have 2 guys that were state runner-ups last year, and Nate Schoen from Selinsgrove and Isaiah Vance from Hempfield. You know, Schoen's a 3-time state medalist, now a 4-time state medalist. He has a state championship to his name. He's undefeated. He was 36-0 heading into that match. But Isaiah Vance wrestled so smart. He wrestled so well. He had a game plan, and it worked to perfection. He used his weight. He used his heavy hips. All of Schoen's attacks were thwarted right away, and he scored off of them. I thought Vance wrestled outstanding. You know, Schoen's a guy who likes to throw people around. He's kind of goes for some big moves, but you know, Vance just, man, he wrestled really well. Very impressed with him throughout the tournament. And, man, if he wrestles like that again next weekend, there's no one that's going to stop him.
And you look at next weekend, you gotta like the chances of Vance and Schoen for part 2. Schoen's on the top half with McChesney. Dawson Dietz is on the bottom half with Vance.
Yeah, I'm looking at this bracket, and I'm thinking for sure we're going to see a rematch here between Vance and Schoen. And you know, Dietz is going to be in there as well, but I really do think that Schoen and Vance are probably going to see each other again. You know, even McChesney, you could see McChesney come out on that bottom half as well, or the top half as well, to wrestle Schoen in the semifinals. So, yeah, I expect a rematch here between Vance and Schoen, and I think it's going to be a good one.
And why don't we go ahead and see if Isaiah Vance is available to join us now, kind enough to join us and talk to us a bit. Isaiah, thanks for joining us, and congratulations on your title.
Thank you.
Well, before we talk a little bit about this past weekend and just what a great performance you had throughout the entire tournament, talk a little bit about a couple weeks back when you lost in the section championships to William McChesney. Do you feel like that really just kind of set yourself up to like, hey, I need to come out here and wrestle in my absolute best, and just kind of, because I feel like ever since that loss, you've been dominant.
Yeah, after that loss, I kind of like it clicked in me like, well, I just lost just now, so I need to get back in the room and start working 10 times harder so I can keep up, stay ahead of these really good guys at my weight, so I can get to states and win that title this year.
Yeah, and obviously you showed it with that for those first 2 matches, both of them by fall. Is your goal just to obviously you want to go out and dominate, but getting to those pins quicker so that way then you don't give any guys the opportunity to even come close with you?
Yeah, that's the plan. Go out there, do my stuff, and just dominate and get that first period pin if I can. If not, try to get it in the second period.
Well, talk about your game plan against Schoen. Jeff mentioned it went to perfection for you. Just talk a little bit about what went right, and what things you think you can potentially correct still, because there's a likelihood you could see him again.
When I went out there, I knew Schoen was going to be a tough opponent off the bat. I knew he had good offense and good defense. So I went out there going, all right, if I just stay ahead of him, use my weight the right way, keep my hips out, I'll be okay.
And Isaiah, it kind of seemed like that went just perfectly for you. He comes out right away strong. He's what he likes to do. He comes in against your legs, and all of a sudden it was like he hit a brick wall and just stopped. And being a bigger guy, when you get underneath somebody, that's a lot of weight. That takes a lot of energy out of you. Did you just feel the momentum kind of shifting your way as you kind of were shutting him down and really being able to get to your offense off of his shots?
Yeah, after that first encounter we had in the beginning, I felt, okay, if I keep up this pace, I'll be okay. Because I knew at the beginning, I was the heaviest heavyweight there. So I was going, all right, I'm just going to use my weight and my speed and get ahead of these guys.
And Greg kind of alluded to it, but how you've wrestled Billy McChesney like what 5 times already this year? It had to be pretty cool to not have to wrestle him again. I feel like that's like a broken record that just gets over and over and over again. You're like, all right, can I please get somebody else to wrestle? Was it nice not having to wrestle him?
It was nice, but I do like wrestling Billy because it's always that really strong guy to go up against. See how you do. But me and Billy have been going at it for years.
Yeah, you guys definitely have been going at it for years, and we love watching you guys battle. You were a state runner-up last year, losing to Hunter Kaka, but you made it to the state finals, right? Saturday night inside the Giant Center. This year, obviously a little bit different, right? There's only 8 of you left. Not going to have the large crowd there, but I'm assuming having that experience of being in the finals of the state tournament in Hershey probably helped prepare you for what's to come on this Saturday. Would you agree?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Wrestling. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in terms of how that match went down, you probably ever since then have been working for that second chance to get to the state finals and win a title.
Yes, ever since that loss last year, a day later I went back in the room with my grandfather and we came up with a new game plan to get me ready for next year. And I think it's really working out well this year.
And how cool is it that, we talked to you after Powerade, which was a great win that you had over Cole Deary from Malvern Prep, avenging a loss from the year prior. You're going to Army West Point. You're going to be there with your teammate Ethan Bernie. That's got to be pretty cool that you guys are kind of going together and kind of continuing your journey, because you guys have been on this one for quite a while.
Yeah, that was really cool. I remember when Ethan decided he was going to go, the coach sent me a text, and then an hour later, Ethan texted me again, "You better go." Yeah.
And I got to give credit to your assistant coach of Hempfield, Brandon Matthews, who wrestled for Peters Township and now at Seton Hill. And man, I heard he takes a beating from you in the room every day. Like, you got to take it easy on him this week, all right?
Yeah, no. I have to give him a lot of credit because he helps me with my speed in the room a good bit, keeps me on my toes.
Well, that's the way to, definitely got to give him one more week of beating, right? Because you got another tough matchup still. I mean, getting that rematch potentially was shown. You got to make sure coach gets a couple more beatings in, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a rough week.
Well, hey, congratulations, Isaiah, on winning a championship. Best of luck as you head into Hershey this coming weekend, and we hope that we can talk to you next week after potentially winning a state gold.
Yep, thank you for having me here. It's been an honor.
Appreciate it, Isaiah. Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Isaiah Vance, kind enough to join us on the show, and yeah, just what a great wrestler and just a great human as well. Just love chatting with him.
Yeah, I love talking with Isaiah, and I liked what he said about McChesney. He's like, I like wrestling Billy because he's a strong guy and he makes him better. And I actually 100% believe him when he said that he and his grandfather, after losing to Katka, went back in the room, and his grandfather has been there every step of the way with him, man. And being a state champion himself, I just it'd be very special for him to join his grandfather and be a state champion.
Well, Jeff, if you want to put the graph up as far as statistics go for AAA by the Super West region, the WPIAL by far and away taking the most medals. They end up with 29, again, out of a possible 39. Just a fantastic finish. That's about 75% of the medal count heading to the WPIAL. The next one was District 3. They ended up with 11. And then following that was District 6 with 6 medals. But overall, just such a dominant performance by the WPIAL.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. And we kind of, you look at the number of weights that all 3 guys went. 132, 138, 145, 152, and heavyweight. All 3 guys, in all 3 possible guys, made it to the medal round of Hershey. Now, I guarantee you, if there was 4 that came from the WPIAL, there probably would be 1 or 2, maybe even 3 weights where all 4 of them would be going. There was only 2 weights where only one WPIAL wrestler made it. That was 106 and 189. Every single other weight had at minimum 2 wrestlers from the WPIAL make it to the state tournament or the state medal round. Yeah, it was, and District 3 wrestled really well. I thought they had some good wins, but man, District 7 just, I guess by and large we're not really that surprised that they wrestled as well as they did. But you look at the winning percentages; they're 81 for 50, in total, versus teams or District 3 they're 47 and 15. 39 wrestlers, 81 wins, 50 losses, 9 champs. 9 champs. The only other district to have a champ was District 3, and they had 2. So that's, that's kind of, it's kind of crazy to see. I'm sorry, and District 6 had 2 as well. I don't know why I missed District 2, but only 3 districts had champions, 9, 2, and 2. It's pretty incredible, Greg.
Yeah, and in addition to the 106 and 189, the 5th place finishers were both from the WPIAL in those 2 weight classes.
Wow.
So that just tells you with Benny and Roskoski. But yeah, fantastic finish for AAA. AA did pretty well as well, but before we get to AA, let's first throw it over to Nick Fuller of Tactical Mind. I want to make sure we mention Nick and all the great things he's doing.
This is the Tactical Mind, and I work with athletes in the field of sports psychology as a cognitive performance coach. Within 5 minutes of talking to a parent, they make the connection right away that this would be great for my kid to have when they're in college, when they're just going through the ups and downs of high school. Who wouldn't benefit from having more self-awareness? Who wouldn't benefit from having the ability to self-regulate our emotions and our counterproductive thoughts? Who wouldn't benefit from having more optimism, not just on the field, but in life?
Don't forget to use promo code POWER to receive 50% off your initial consultation. Again, that's promo code POWER, POWER, and you'll receive 50% off your initial consultation. Mention AA on the other side, and they come across with 29 wrestlers going into the Super West tournament. And really, if you think about the Super West region, you have District 10 coming down, who's typically strong here in AA with the likes of Reynolds and Sagertown, Fort LaBeouf. WPIAL did pretty well. Out of those 29, 14 wrestlers qualifying for the state tournament and earning a medal. And overall, out of those 14, I believe 5 of them were champions. So a great job by the WPIAL. When you look at it by weight class, at 106 pounds, Cooper Hornack of Burrell makes it into the finals, but drops a 1-0 decision to Hunter Robeson of Sagertown.
Yeah, that was a tough match that he had with Robeson and 1-0. He kept it close with Louis Gill from Hickory. That was a 3-2 win. So we knew that it was going to be, Hornack was going to be in the hunt with Robeson and Gill and Bainey. So, it probably could see that again, depending on where people shake out here. But we could potentially see a rematch there.
And you look at AA, Hornack's got a tough draw. He gets Brandon Wenzel of Montoursville in the opening match. Wenzel, a 3rd place finisher out of the East, out of the East region. And if he wins that match, he could see Landon Bainey out of West Branch, and that was a back and forth match in the Southwest Regional Tournament. So Hornack's going to have a tough road to get to that final, but definitely has that opportunity to potentially see Robeson again.
Yeah, I mean, you draw a state champion the first round. I mean, that's a tough thing to do. But I think Hornack's gonna, and Wenzel hasn't really. I mean, he had a step back last weekend, but Hornack I think is gonna push him. I think there's a lot. I don't think there's one guy here who stands ahead of the rest. I think you look at this. I think literally everyone on that top half could win a state title between Burke, Bainey, Wenzel, and Hornack. And I also think you look on the bottom half, Smith, Gill, and Robeson can all win titles. I think Stephen Harris from Conwell Egan is probably the only guy who's not in the hunt. Everyone else would not be shocked at all if they come away with a state title.
113 pounds for WPIAL. Chris Vargo of Bentworth moving on with a 3rd place finish. He actually got upset in the semifinals by Cohen Bainey, a Bald Eagle area 5-1, and it was a 1-1 match, and he got gave up 2-2 late in the 3rd period. Vargo major decision Bainey the week prior, and I think that was a big surprise for how badly he beat Bainey the week prior. But Vargo losing there, coming back for 3rd place, he had to beat Damon Michaels of Elizabeth Forward. Winner of that match was going on to Hershey, and unfortunately it didn't last long, only 46 seconds whenever Michaels got hurt, and it was a deep double leg shot from Vargo. Michaels' legs just went straight back, and it was kind of an ugly scene, to be honest. And really just hoping that Michaels is able to bounce back and come back, because he had a great freshman year.
Yeah, he had a great freshman year. Chris Vargo has been wrestling really well. I just think this was another kind of weird bracket. Cohen Bainey takes third in the Southwest, but comes out and wins it. He beats up Bryce Beatty from Mount Union in the finals, 12-2. But Vargo's first match with Callan Bowman was a barn burner, 10-8 in second tiebreaker. That was a really huge match for him. Callan Bowman doesn't even make it out of the state or the super region, and he was a state finalist a year prior. So for Vargo, the good thing is he has another chance to advance and compete. He's going to be a state medalist, and really, you look at the state bracket, who knows where he can finish. He's kind of in a position where in the bracket he's got Gavin Bradley, who's really, really tough, but even if he loses that, he can wrestle back.
Yeah, and if he can get that win over Bradley, I think that could be one of his toughest matches to get to the finals, because then you get back to that rematch, the third showing against Cohen Bainey. So he has already beaten him once. He's majored him once. He does have the loss to him, but you could have that opportunity to wrestle him one more time, and then Jaden Pepe up top would be the guy to knock off to potentially win a state title. I've just been super impressed though overall with Vargo throughout this entire freshman year. I mean, he's just been outstanding to watch. 120 pounds of WPIAL does not get a wrestler through, but I just got to mention really quickly, Jeff, Mason Gibson, Gary Steen. Wow, that was a match, and I can't wait for round 2.
Yeah, I mean, you were there front and center for round 1 at True Power. You called that match. That was a heck of a match. And this one didn't disappoint either. I mean, that last takedown by Gibson was just insane. You can see the highlight of those 10 seconds on our Twitter page. But, this is must-watch wrestling between these two, and I can't wait to see it for a third time either.
Yeah, Steen will have to beat Brett Unger to get to the finals, but really excited. Those two are just wrestling on another level, and it showed at IUP yesterday. 126 pounds, Joey Fisher of South Park. He is the lone WPIAL wrestler going on. Joey Senapal of Burgestown finishes in 5th place, but Fisher going on and did it in dominating fashion. Really, he was never really in a position where he felt like he would lose any one of the matches.
Yeah, and I watched that match with Connor Saylor in the finals, and yeah, it was 3-0, but he was in control of that match, and I expect Joey Fisher to continue wrestling that way as he enters his final trip to Hershey this weekend.
Yeah, and that he's got Gable Strickland on his half of the bracket, and then Scott Johnson, who beat Strickland, is on the top half. But overall, the way Fisher's been wrestling, the way he's been just controlling guys, as long as he wrestles his match and his style, I don't see anyone beating him here in Hershey.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Strickland is not a guy I'm going to look past at all whatsoever. I think he easily makes it to the semifinals, does Fisher. I think that Strickland will be in there as well. Scott Johnson has been wrestling really tough as a sophomore for Muncie, earning his first state medal this year. But, Connor Saylor is up there. Gabe Gramley's up there as well. Should Scott Johnson come out, I think he would push Fisher. But I agree with you, Greg. If Fisher wrestles like he has been all year, I can't see anyone stopping him.
132 pounds. A solid tournament for Kyle McCullum, a best center. He is your 4th place finisher. Also, Jamison Pokliembo of Mount Pleasant finishing in 6th place. It came down to McCullum and Pokliembo for the right to advance to Hershey. McCullum had a big win in the quarters over Kane Kettering of Reynolds in overtime. And then after losing to Arrington, McCullum and Pokliembo go to overtime. McCullum winning there 3-1 to advance.
Yeah, that was huge for that junior. I mean, he had a big win over Kane Kettering, a junior, 4-2-7 victory. Loses to Arrington, no shame in there, but then battles in tiebreaker to make it to the blood round, or to make it to the the 3rd and 4th place match. So yeah, good showing by him to earn his first state medal.
He's got a tough draw. Brandon Chaletzos of Notre Dame Green Pond will be his first matchup.
Yeah, that's Kletos is a guy that I'm not excited to be across the circle from if I'm him. But hey, anything's possible here. This is a deep weight class. You got really tough guys in Connor Heckman from Midwest. You have Cade Wernzenberger from Meadowbrook Christian, and of course you have Jackson Arrington and Connor Pierce there as well. So it's going to be tough.
138 pounds, Ian Oswald of Burrell drops a decision once again to Brock McMillan, 5-1 in the finals, back-to-back weeks where Oswald has lost to McMillan. Lost to him twice last year as well. Just can't seem to get that monkey off his back, but he's going to get one more opportunity to do so. But overall, he's the only guy going on from the WPIAL. Can he close that gap here this week?
Yeah, I mean, so I definitely think he can, but I think, you look at his where he lays on the bracket. He's going to have Connor Hare from Montgomery in the first round, who's a freshman, really, really talented, a guy I've been pretty high on all year. So, although he wants to get to McMillan, I wouldn't want to put the cart before the horse, because if you look at Connor Hare, he's a guy who can easily earn an upset victory. And, I think Brock McMillan, that's a testament to him and how, it's hard to beat a guy as many times as McMillan has Oswald. So, I think he's just been finding different ways to win. It's kind of like AHR and Rocco Welsh. He's winning in different ways. He's finding ways to win every single time. You throw everything at him, and he's able to swat it away. So, but I do expect a McMillan and Oswald rematch in the state finals.
Yeah, in addition to that match, he's also got Eric Alderfer as well on his half that he'll have to get by. 145 pounds, the WPIAL's Kenny Dushek of Blackhawk makes it to the finals, but drops a 2-1 overtime decision to Caden Berger of Reynolds to finish in second place. Another story here, Tyler Simmerman of Derry, not able to get into that top four. He finishes in fifth place, dropping decisions to both Caden Berger as well as Carter Gill.
Yeah, and on paper, it's not surprising that Simmerman did not make it out, just because on paper he had already lost to Gill at the Powerade tournament, and Berger beat Gill. So in the rankings, it goes Berger, Gill, Simmerman. So not as entirely surprising, but kind of surprising because he has over 150 wins in his career, and he's a state medalist prior. So I was surprised more so that Kenny Dushek lost to Berger. I thought Dushek had been wrestling, and I still think he's wrestling really well. I just think he wasn't able to figure out Berger in that match. I watched that match. Did you see anything in that match, Greg, where you thought Dushek could have done better in certain positions? Do you feel like, he wasn't wrestling his best? What were your thoughts being there? Because I watched it on video, and I had a few thoughts.
Yeah, I felt that overall, both guys were kind of getting attacks, but I thought Dushek just wasn't getting his angles and wasn't getting his shots that he normally sees. He was able to defend Berger pretty well, but he wasn't getting in his own positions.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would go back to Powerade and watching him wrestle John Altieri and versus Caden Berger, and I thought had he wrestled like he did against John Altieri, he probably would have beaten Caden Berger. But you're right, he wasn't setting up he wasn't able to get to his offense as much as I think he would have liked to. And Caden Berger, I thought, just did a good job of slowing him down, right, and being able to control the pace a little bit. So that very well could happen again. You look at the state bracket. 145 is stacked. Kenny Dushek's going to have Patrick Edmondson right out of the gate from Southern Columbia. He's a state medalist prior. I think that's going to be a tough match. And, of course, you have Levi Haynes on the top half with him. So Levi Haynes, Kenny Dushek, they were 1 and 2 in the state for a very long time. Levi Haynes is kind of on a different level. He's going to have Carter Gill right out of the gate. But, unfortunately for Dushek, I would have much rather be on the bottom half with Frack and Higley. But, that's the way the cookie crumbles. You're going to have to beat him one way or another. So Kenny Dushek's going to have his hands full. This 145-pound bracket's going to be a lot of fun. I think Levi Haynes is clearly the guy, but everything else I think is going to be fun to see.
This is probably one of the deepest weights right here at 145 because I think 1 through 8 is very solid. I don't think there's not there's any bad wrestlers in the state tournament, but I don't think there's a guy here that's like, okay, that guy has zero chance or doesn't have much of a chance to win a state title. All these guys are just solid.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you, Greg.
152 pounds, a guy who seemed to take it to another level, Grant McKay of Laurel, finishing as the champion, and he did it with a fall, a 5-0 win, and a 17-6 major decision in the finals. McKay is on a roll.
Yeah, McKay's like a fine wine, man. He just gets better with time. He's continuing to impress. We've seen him multiple times this year. Midwinter Mayhem, he looked really good there. I think he's just kind of wrestling on a different level now. He's getting into a groove where I think he's really, a threat to win that state title. In fact, I do think he's I would be very surprised if he does not win the state title in Hershey, and I don't want to put a lot of pressure on a sophomore like that, but just the way he's been wrestling, I can't see anyone stopping him. And you had mentioned how 152 was so deep in the state, or 145. 152 is kind of the opposite. 152 is not deep at all, in my opinion. You have guys that have never made it to the state tournament, and a lot of guys who haven't made it on the podium. Dalton Gimber from Hamburg is tough, but I really can't see anyone stopping Grant McKay on the bottom half. And honestly, I'm not sure who to expect to come out from the top. Devin Deem from Montgomery may be that guy, but Gimber, he probably could sneak through there. But I really think McKay, this is his to lose, in my opinion.
160 pounds, AJ Corrado of Burrell. He is your champion. Also from the WPIAL, Oleg Melnick of Carlinton. He finishes in third place. First with Corrado. Last week we had him on the show, and he talked about, hey, I need to really open my offense. And he didn't. Corrado had a 1-1 score with McMonagle, got a late takedown in the third to win it, had to go to overtime with Wyant to get his takedown, and then going to ultimate tiebreaker to beat Casilio. Just really struggling. I know he injured his shoulder against Wyant, so I don't know how much that's been playing a factor. I know he's been kind of battling with some injuries, but Corrado, to me, he gets the championship, but I'm sure he's saying, hey, I got to open up more come next week.
He's definitely going to have to open up more. You look at the state bracket, my gosh, he draws Nolan Lear the first round. Nolan Lear takes fourth out of the East Super Region. That was a kind of a wild bracket. Holden Garcia from Notre Dame Green Pond ends up winning it. Avery Bassett, and you remember Avery Bassett, he beat Cole Spencer, so that kind of shows you where he's at. Avery Bassett's a stud, was third in the state last year, going to George Mason. He's probably going to come out from that match with Casilio, potentially. Holden Garcia and Ryan Wyant should be a good match. I really don't know who to pick here because AJ Corrado could very much lose his first match with Nolan Lear. We could have a Lear-Gimber semifinal match. I agree with you, Greg. I mean, he did not open up as well as he wanted to. You're playing with fire, going to overtime and tiebreakers with some of these good guys, and you're now in the medal round. You can't really do that. You certainly can't do that with Nolan Lear. So 160 is going to be a fight. I'm really excited to see 160 because there's about, I would say, 4 to 5 guys here who legit can win it. I think Avery Bassett, Nolan Lear, AJ Corrado, Holden Garcia, and Bailey Gimber could all end up winning it. It's just a matter of who comes out on top and who's able to show up.
Yeah, 145 being a fun weight. 160 is also a very fun weight class. And don't count out Oleg Melnick of Carlinton. How in the heck he did it, I don't know, but he ends up hitting a headlock on Ryan Wyant to get 2-2 plus a stalling point and win 7-5 in a match where you just figured, hey, he's already he's a fourth place finisher, but does that to a Division I recruit in Ryan Wyant.
Yeah, Oleg, I mean, he really has been wrestling lights out this year for Carlinton, and he's been a guy who's been on the cusp for a while, but has never really threatened these top-level guys, and now here he is. He was a 5-3 decision away from going to the finals of the Super Region. He's earning his first state medal, so, yeah, I thought he wrestled very, very well. That match with Ryan Wyant, that's the second week in a row he beat him, so I think that's pretty, like you said, Division I recruit, returning state medalist. That's something to be pretty happy about.
172 pounds, talking about last week as well. Rune Lawrence of Fraser, Malachi Duvall of Penns Valley. Duvall takes the early lead up 4-0, but then Rune Lawrence scores the remaining 9 points. He gets 4 points to take it to overtime, and then gets 2 and 3 near falls in the overtime period to win 9-4. Rune Lawrence is your champion. And how about Ethan Barr of McGuffey? After losing an opening fall to Rune Lawrence, battles all the way back for third place.
Yeah, Ethan Barr was as good as Rune Lawrence was. And I hate to say we expect it from him, but after watching him the last couple of weeks, we really do expect him to be as exciting and dominant as he was. But Ethan Barr was 5th in the Southwest region. He was 3rd in the Super region. That's incredible how he turned that around. His match with Gage Musser from Commodore Perry was 2-1 tiebreaker. That was huge. Musser came into the tournament with a 24-1 record. He loses Duvall 8-3 and then drops down to Barr. Barr then pins Church. I'm really impressed with Barr, especially how dominated Rune was against him. Barr was just he wasn't in the matches with Rune, and Rune's fun to watch, man. He is a serious title contender as we go into the final week in Hershey.
And you look at that Hershey bracket, Rune Lawrence is on the same half as Ethan Barr and Ben Hobbart of Palisades. Hobbart and Barr will wrestle in the opening match. So that could be a great matchup, Hobbart and Lawrence, if Hobbart can get past Barr. But then you got Gavin Garcia on the top half of the bracket, as well as Jake Jones and Malachi Duvall. This is another weight class that's pretty deep.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this, and I think it's going to be Garcia, Duvall, Hobbart, and Rune Lawrence in the semifinals. And, personally, I've seen more of Duvall than I have Garcia this year, but Garcia has just been – a steady horse that's always finds ways to win. He has that great genes in him, being a Garcia brother. I feel like he's probably going to be the guy to come out from the top. But Malachi Duvall, we very much could see a Rune Lawrence, Malachi Duvall part 3 on Friday night.
And Duvall has led both of those matches, and it has taken Rune Lawrence to come back in both of those to win it. So that's been a couple of exciting matches so far between those two, and should be fun to see if we can get it one more time. 189 pounds, Ethan Finch of Sheffield had to defeat all 3 WPIAL wrestlers, which we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks of how strong the WPIAL is at 189. He beats Shane Kemper 9-0 major decision, then beats Patrick Cutchember of Quaker Valley 8-6 in overtime, and then beats Trent Schulteis of Freedom 5-3 in overtime. Schulteis ends up being the second place finisher, and this is the same guy who finished second in his section, third in the WPIL, but he finishes second here after winning the Southwest region last week. Meanwhile, I think one of the other stories, I always thought Cutchember and Kemper, at least one of those, I thought the WPIL would get at least 2 guys on the podium and to advance. Neither of them advanced. After their losses to Finch, Cutchember loses to Ian Eckenrode by fall, which he was up that whole match, and it was just Eckenrode battled back. It was a back and forth match throughout. And then Cole Karpinski of Greenville goes to overtime with Shane Kemper and pins him in overtime. So both of those guys 1 win shy.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's disappointing for the WPIAL here not getting all 3 of those guys, or at least 2 of them, to the medal round matches of Hershey. Ethan Finch, I've been super impressed with him ever since he finished 4th at the Super 32, and a week later he committed to Pitt. The kid's just an absolute stud, and he doesn't get nearly as much respect as he should. Beating as many of the WPIAL guys as he did, beat up Shane Kemper, major decision, was able to survive that Cutchember match, and then that match with Schulteis. Again, he just finds a way to win, but I would agree with you, Greg. You look at Cutchember and Eckenrode. I have Cutchember winning that basically 9 times out of 10, and Kemper Karpinski, again, back and forth. I think Kemper probably wins that most times, but it's just unfortunate. It's right who's had the hot hand at the right time, because Cutchember was literally a takedown away from making it to the finals of the Super Region, and then he ends up not making it even to the state medal round. So tough to see, but Cutchember, he's going to come back. He's a junior. He's a raw talent. He's got a lot more years of wrestling to go in front of him.
And he had beaten Schulteis once already this year, and he was actually up on Finch. Finch had to come back to win to get the overtime. So that just tells you how close 1 through 6 was at 189 pounds. You look at Trent Schulteis's spot. You like where he's got Bryce Enders of Halifax to start, but then if he wins, he's going to have Cale Krebs of Montoursville.
Yeah, tough bracket here. Obviously with Cale Krebs being one of the top guys here, and also Wesley Barnes from Southern Columbia. Ethan Finch is on the bottom half. So if I'm Schulteis, hey, at least I'm on that top half with Enders and Eckenrode, who Eckenrode. I think he's going to beat Enders. I think it's going to be a Krebs Schulteis match, who those two have wrestled back and forth. Wrestled at Powerade this year, and then of course Barnes and Finch on the bottom, I believe, is going to come out. But hey, Schulteis, it depends on what Trent shows up, man, because he could be in the finals or he could be, in 8th place. It's just a matter of what one shows up.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely. 215 pounds. How about the dominant performance from Dayton Pitzer, as he wrestled all about 5 minutes total in his 3 matches, and one of those lasted about 3.5. 2 first period falls in the semis and the finals to win it all. Also going on is Eli Reese of Knock. He and Colin Milko of Carlinton had to wrestle for the right to advance, and Reese beats him 4-2. Milko finishing in 6th place. But Pitzer, the story with the dominant performance.
Yeah, Pitzer's just wrestling on a different level. Ever since he came back from that injury last year, he's just really been stepping it up. I mean, his only losses are Nick Feldman. He's just been wrestling on a different level, dominating guys. And now the West wasn't nearly as deep as it has been, right? But there was a lot of tough guys there. Dylan Bennett from Montoursville is on that top half of the bracket with Eli Reese. Good job by Eli Reese. I thought, for a guy who hasn't quite been there and hasn't been a threat in his years in AAA, to come in and drop down the 215 as a senior at Knock and make it to the medal round matches, I thought was very impressive for him. I really don't think there's anyone that's going to come close to Dayton Pitzer next week in Hershey. I just can't see anybody. I'm not saying he's going to pin his way through it, but I don't think anyone's going to touch him.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And matter of fact, I was looking back through, and I can't remember the number it was. I want to say it was 5. I think he's wrestled 41 matches this year, and I think he's only made it 6 minutes 5 times. The 2 losses to Feldman, 2 wins over Cole Waitman, and then the win over Dylan Bennett of Montoursville at Powerade. Wow. I think that is literally the only times Dayton Pitzer has not gotten a fall this season. That's just so what? That's 36 falls this season. Just absolutely incredible. And just totally dominant. 285 pounds for the WPIAL. They do not advance a wrestler. Mitch Miles of Laurel finished in 5th place, and he dropped a couple of close matches, both to Marvin Beatty of Marion Center, as well as to Jalen Stevens of Myersdale. So the WPIAL overall here at 285 without a wrestler. But any thoughts on the region or the state bracket here?
Well, yeah, I mean, Mitch Miles pins Jordan Shell from Girard in 22 seconds, makes it to the semifinals, and then loses to Stevens, who Shell then beats 1-0. So, I mean, this is not, like, for a rankings point of view, this doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, Nathan Taylor clearly the number 1 here, but, Shell gets pinned by Miles in 22 seconds, comes back, wins 3 straight, including a fall over John Rocco Danello, but also a 1-0 win over Jalen Stevens. So you can't make heads or tails of this. I think you wrestle this again tomorrow, you're going to have Taylor win it, but the rest of the 5, who knows? So, 285 is exciting, but Nathan Taylor, we saw, again, another true power wrestler. We saw, he's wrestling really well. I'm excited to see him in Hershey.
You look at the medal count overall in AA, mentioned 14 for the WPIAL with the 5 champions. And the WPIAL, by the way, having the most champions with 5, but also the pretty even as far as the split goes with the medals, because District 10's coming away with 16 and District 6 ties District 7 with 14. So overall, WPIAL hanging tough with both District 6 and District 10. Pretty even throughout this tournament.
Yeah, 29 wrestlers, right? 14 medals, 5 champions. I thought that was, clearly there's a lot of top-heavy wrestlers there, and you got to look at, how many got weeded out en route to the West Super Region. So there's going to be a lot of guys there that, aren't having that opportunity to wrestle. So yeah, I was impressed with District 7 overall in AA, because District 5, District 6, District 10, District 9, those aren't easy districts. There's not a lot of pushovers in any of those districts. So I was impressed to see, the winning percentage as high as it was for them. But overall, again, top heavy with 5 champs.
Yeah, and you also look at, as far as with the WPIAL mentioned, with 14 guys, 5 champions, and just an impressive performance overall for the WPIAL. So you look at this upcoming weekend with Hershey, the schedule is going to be pretty similar to what you saw at IUP the last 2 weekends, with the 8 a.m. starts, 106 to 138. They'll run those through all the way to they'll run the quarterfinals and the first round of consolations. Oh, one thing I did want to mention before I get into the schedule, I was having a brain fart momentarily. They kept team points as well for the the West Super Region. Burrell, your number 1 team, beating Reynolds. Impressive job, and great congratulations to the Burrell Bucks.
Yeah, I did hear that, and they didn't keep one in the West AA or AAA. So
Right. But they did in AA, so congratulations to Burrell. But yeah, 8 o'clock start time, and then it'll be 106 to 138. Then they'll go to 145 to 285. And again, they'll wrestle the quarterfinals, first round of consolations, and the semifinals. And then they'll come back for the third session, which will be 106 to 138. They'll wrestle the second round of consolations, and then they'll wrestle first, third, fifth, and seventh. And then 145 to 285. I think that last session starts at like 7:30. So it's going to be a long 2 days, Friday and Saturday, starting at 8 a.m., finishing up probably around like 10 o'clock at night for those 2 days. But all of AA will be on Friday. As Jeff just continues looking, I guess he has no comment to that. But Jeff, are you going to get the itch? Come this coming weekend?
oh, yeah, absolutely I am. But I don't know if that's going to happen. So I mean, it is what it is.
It's not going to happen, but I mean, it's
no,
all
it's
right,
not
buddy.
Going to happen. But I mean, family calls, and if there's a year to miss it, this is the year, because it's not like we have round after round after round after round. It's only the medal round matches, so it's tough. But I haven't missed a state tournament since I was overseas at grad school 1 year, and I think before that it was a while. So yeah, I mean, it sucks, but again, I got a little blessing here of a little baby boy, so I'm happy about that. He's gonna sit around and watch it with me. So we're gonna have fun together.
Getting his first state championship action.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I want to thank Isaiah Vance for joining us, and a big congratulations to him on his performance from this past weekend. Thank you to my broadcast partner, Jeff Upson. I'm Greg Warnock. Thanks for listening in to War Up on the WPIAL.